Russia's sudden announcement of a COVID-19 vaccine part of a political battle with the U.S.? International Relations Professor at Wits University, Stremlau, joins us now to discuss the relationship between Russia and the U.S. and what the impact this might have on the fight against COVID-19. Prof, good evening and thank you so much for your time tonight. To be the first one out the block with a COVID-19 vaccine would be a real shot in the arm for the Kremlin, would it not?
Well, it certainly would if it was credible, and I would, in fact, take it if I had Professors Karim and Mahdi and Gray telling me that it was safe to do so. What we are seeing in the case of this Russian vaccine is it's being rushed into use by an autocrat who doesn't brook criticism or independent opinion very well, and Donald Trump, who would like very much, as you alluded to have this out before the election on November 3rd. What is intriguing about it, and this runs so contrary to my whole experience in dealing with U.S.-Russian or U.S.-Soviet relations, is that Putin and Trump seem to be having some sort of a cooperative arrangement here, and it looks to me like whatever reasons Trump has, or Putin has domestically, his desire to help his ally, Trump, in getting reelected has already been revealed by U.S. intelligence in the last week. The Chinese are working.
So are you saying, Prof, here, I mean, this possibly could be a Putin handing over the technology to Trump, and there are some already saying that that's the type of criticism that we should await coming from Trump's opponents, who are going to say this was actually Putin's work, handing over Trump this vaccine just in time for the elections. Because Trump himself has always been linking somehow his COVID response to the election campaign.
Well, exactly. It shouldn't be the case, but he's so badly mishandled the effort to limit. I mean, just looked at the numbers that you were showing on your screen. With America only 4% of the world's population, it's got 25 or 30% of the cases and deaths. It's really astounding how badly this has been managed. And a vaccine would be the quick fix, but all of the public health officials are defying Trump in pointing out that you've got to be responsible in testing it. And there is in America a long tradition of using particularly African Americans for experimental tests that have been quite lethal to them, such as the syphilis test down in Tuskegee in the 1930s to the 1970s. And as a result, there's suspicion about having politicians have too much say over what should be a scientific public health question. And Trump got himself into this box, and this is not going to get him out of it.
How does this affect Operation Warp Speed? I mean, as early as 2 days ago, he was saying it's going as planned, and as you mentioned earlier, we'll deliver a vaccine before November 3rd. Now Putin coming out first, saying, well, we got the vaccine first. Are we likely to see Trump putting in a little bit more effort and being compelled to compete in this pharmaceutical contest?
Well, I don't think he can get away with it. Now, Putin can do what Putin wants, and obviously this ardent virus or vaccine is promising in the sense that it does what vaccines often do. It mimics the virus, in this case COVID-19. It's a vaccine that is derived from cold viruses, as I understand, fairly common. It might well work, but he's only been in the first 2 phases of responsible trials, and then he's rushing to say it's ready to go and I'm going to give it to my daughter. I wonder whether Donald Trump would take the vaccine himself, but if Trump thought he could get away with it, as he tried to do with hydroxychloroquine, he would do so politically. It's bad policy to have politicians trying to do public health issues that are highly scientific and technical like this is. It's not my business, but what is my business is responsible governance, and this is irresponsible governance both by Putin and by Trump. And by the way, as far as we know from U.S. intelligence reports this week, the Russians are trying to to influence the U.S. election as they did in 2016, and there was a very tight race then, so it may have made a deciding difference. We don't really know for sure, but they are interfering on Trump's behalf, whereas the Chinese are interfering on Biden's behalf. That's not good for democracy. South Africa wouldn't want people trying to alter their voting integrity by interfering, but that's what's happening in the United States, and I don't like it.
And there's a debate going on currently, Prof. I don't know if you have been seeing those open letters from past officials, military, as well as intelligence operators on how the relations should be going forward. There are those who are saying put more pressure, be aggressive, take some aggressive action on Trump, and there are those who are saying this is an opportunity for cooperation.
Well, it should be an opportunity for cooperation. I must say, by the side, that I'm very pleased to see that there are two drugs, one by Johnson & Johnson being developed and another by Novavax, that are being introduced and tested in South Africa with the involvement of the South African Medical Research Council. That's the way you should do it, because I do fear vaccine nationalism. Trump is practicing this by all of his warp speed, trying to get all this done for Americans to help his election. It's crazy. This is too serious. This is life and death for the people involved, citizens involved, and it's being contaminated by the politics, as you suggest, and I think that has to be uppermost in our mind. We'd love to have a vaccine tomorrow. I'm an old guy. I would love to have a vaccine so I could get out and about, but I'm only going to wait for the scientists, people like Professor Karim or Professor Mahdi or Professor Gray, to tell me that it's now safe to do. I'm not going to trust, and Cyril Ramaphosa would be smart enough not to try, but Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are demagogues, and they think they can monopolize the politics by just saying what is going to happen. And I think Putin gets away with it more than Donald Trump is going to get away with it.
Well, if, the vaccine doesn't work, except for the fact that it would be highly embarrassing for Russia, but of course, as you mentioned, it could be highly dangerous for those who are going to take this, because they're going live with it. They're going to be testing frontline workers and the general public by September. But if it doesn't work, will it continue then to exacerbate the distrust between the two countries?
Well, I think the more important point, which you're alluding to, is that in a free society like South Africa, we have people like your good self making sure that the public has an awareness of what the issues are. I would think that if it doesn't work in Russia, Vladimir Putin, because he is winning by 90% of the vote or whatever, 3/4 of the vote, will just close down the information about it. Donald Trump, for all of his efforts, cannot yet do that. That's why this election coming up on November 3rd is so fundamentally important, because it does give an opportunity to have the voters have some say if they can be allowed a free and fair vote. But nevertheless, a closed society, you cannot trust it to be straight on such things as science like this. And Putin is probably as guilty as anyone. But Putin also appreciates that Donald Trump wants to have a relationship with him for whatever reasons, financial or others, that is undermining what used to be a responsible U.S. partner for countries. It's gone very inward, and it's gone very arbitrary, and it's not at all reliable anymore because Donald Trump has undermined the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and other scientific institutions. There is no excuse for the mishandling of the coronavirus to the extent to which Donald Trump has done that in the United States. Just look at the numbers.